Hello guys, this is Ephraim Makombe and I want to welcome you to this episode of Building a Niche Ministry. Kind of excited to actually get started in the publishing process. This has been in the works for a while now, as far as just in my head and on paper, but this is episode 1 here on YouTube and also on the podcast. And what we're talking about, I'm excited really to start this, is I want to talk about why the discipleship funnel is actually hindering most churches, most small independent churches, from accomplishing the vision, the goal that God has called them to within their local community. So what is a discipleship funnel? Pretty much when you have any mode of evangelism, however you are evangelizing, whether it's radio, whether it's word of mouth, whether it's you're on TV or on the internet, your Facebook, what are you using to evangelize, to reach people within your local community? Whatever method you're using is bringing, let's say you reach 100 people, and as you reach 100 people and talk to them and make them aware of who you are, a percentage of those, they are aware of you, but a percentage of those might then show some interest, engage in what you're talking about, and then a smaller percentage of those actually will join your ministry and start the journey with you, and your job at that point would be to lead them through from who they are now to the particular brand of disciple that God has called your ministry to create. The book of Romans chapter 8, right? Paul talks about he has predestined us to be conformed into the image of Christ. So your goal as a ministry, right, is as a person comes in through the funnel and they enter through the door, they commit to their life to Jesus, and not only to Jesus but to your ministry, to grow with you. Then your goal then will be to conform them into the image of Christ. That part of the revelation of Jesus Christ that God has assigned to your particular ministry, to dispense or to minister to the body of Christ or to the world, then you begin to walk them through that, so they become that over time. Now here's the problem right now with the discipleship funnel. Out of every 100 people that God, this is in the US, numbers in the US, out of every 100 people that God sends into a church, these are numbers from the Banner Research Group, and they have got their own research teams, but they also have they're connected to a network of research organizations, and they bring these numbers in, and they say that in America, out of every 100 people that walk through the door of a church, only 10 to 15 will be remaining in that church after 12 months. All right, so we're looking at 2022 is coming up right now, right? And so imagine God gives a church 100 people in the beginning. The numbers are saying in the US, only 10% or 15%, which will be remaining in that church, which means we have a 85 to 95% missed opportunity to turn this person into the image of Christ, or the part of the image of Christ that God has assigned to your ministry, for your ministry to dispense into this world. Every ministry cannot be the fullness of who he is, but we are all parts, we are members of the body. So your part, what you're assigned to, is what your revelation is. It is what you can impart. Such as I have, give I unto you. That's what you are assigned to give, if you understand what I'm saying. So then, if we're missing out on 85 to 90%, that's huge. Now, even more importantly, when you look at the numbers of who, those who, so which means, let's say you have 10 people, out of the 100, you have 10 that join your church and stay. Out of those 10, you have, according to the Pareto principle, you're only going to have 2 out of those 10, which is 20%, 80-20 rule. 2 out of those 10. And this is a rule, this is a principle, this is a law. It applies in everything in the world. Pretty much has been proven to apply to everything. That only 20% are going to do 80% of the work. So imagine, out of the 100 that God gives you, only 2 will be able to invest time and money into effectively helping you in 2023 to try to win another 100 or to do the work of the ministry. Do you see why a lot of small independent churches start small, live small, and die small? It's because there's something that's missing there in the conversion process. And that's what this building a niche ministry, that's what this ministry has been called to solve, to help solve with other churches. And as we go through the episodes, right, in the future, we're going to be going in depth on what can we do today, particularly in this generation where we have so many distractions through social media, so much noise just through strife, political strife or family strife. Just different things are happening to people that are taking so much attention to where, even though people might be coming through the door, the church is failing to capture and capitalize. But then when you build a niche ministry, like I said, I'll get into detail as we're going through and I will explain what it is. Number one, it's going to help you with the biggest problems that small independent churches face, which is finances. A lot of small independent churches, they're broke. They don't have the money to carry out the vision. Their pastors cannot work full-time and dedicate full-time work to the gospel because they have to go do a full-time work. I've been there. I've been a pastor, lead pastor of a small independent church, and I was working 60 hours a week at my other job, so I could take care of my family and also take some of those funds and pay my tithe and do above and beyond my tithe to keep the lights on, to keep the bills paid in the church. So I'm talking from full experience of being a pastor of a small independent church that did not have a proper church income funnel and a proper the model of a discipleship funnel that really was failing because it wasn't capturing and branding people properly or training people properly according to the image of the revelation of the image of Christ that God had assigned to our ministry to bring into the world. So I'll come back to that on another episode, okay? But right now, let me just touch on something else as far as finances in the church. What happens with churches and money is that we are taught, we go to Bible school, we are taught, you go to Bible school, and you learn. I learned a lot about the word. I learned a lot about the prophets, you know, the minor prophets, the major prophets, eschatology, and you know, the poetic books and the synoptic gospels, the letters of Paul, the letters of Peter and James, and you name it, the life of Jesus, and some of the characters in the Bible, you know, dissecting their lives individually. Lots of stuff we learned, a lot that I know that I could give to the world, right? But one of the things that I know I was not taught is actually, how do I generate money to fund what I'm doing? Because we're told, you go and preach and build the work, and people will come and help you, you know, grow the church and grow the ministry so it can get to where God wants it to get to. Yeah. That dream for me personally never materialized. It just never happened that way. I worked and worked and worked. And then I also worked so hard in the church and put a lot of hats to try to have things go, because the church could not afford to pay for a musician. So you know what, I trained myself to play keyboard, and I was playing and leading, and then after that I would preach, because okay, that's another issue again about discipling and leadership and training. Okay, we'll get to that as we're talking about building. But my main point I want to talk about right now was money. In 2008, 2009, when the recession hit, I saw a lot of churches. Our church was not affected that much, but I saw a lot of churches that had been in debt suffer a lot. Some churches here in the States, some huge ministry, big name ministries, had to give up their buildings because there was no money. There was no money, and they went broke because people were not giving. And the economy recovered and things went back to normal, and a lot of churches just relaxed, like nothing happened, and just continued to do church and business as usual. Church, attending church and receiving our tithes and offering. Then 2020 came. We know what happened in 2020 with the global shutdown. And then a lot of churches suffered. A lot of non-profits actually shut down and are no longer there. A lot of churches are no longer there right now, especially here in the States. The rate of churches shutting down actually went up. Before pre-COVID, they used to say it was like 7,000 churches shut down every year in the US alone. 22,000 pastors actually do quit and just give up on the ministry because of money. So after COVID, those numbers have gone up. And why is it that we're not learning from what has been happening over time in the world? Because it seems like now that we're kind of out of the pandemic in a way, kind of sort of, we've been allowed again to interact and to go back. We're building what we're building. But a lot of churches are just again back to business as usual. We just depend on that discipleship funnel to fund our ministry through tithe and offering, and to increase the numbers. But we've seen that it's dangerous, because it's twice over the period of 12 years, we have seen churches suffer and shut down, and the work of the gospel get hindered twice now in 12 years. And so now we're just acting as business as usual. And so what's going to happen is that it's a pattern. You see it happening in the world, right? This will repeat in some form. This is going to repeat itself. And where is your ministry going to be? Where is my ministry going to be? Unless we begin to step back and think. And that's what we're doing with building a niche ministry, because we want our ministry and the ministries that we are working with and the pastors that we're working with to be more established inside their community, so that their impact, their income, and their influence is not dependent on the discipleship funnel alone, but they have an income funnel that is connected to the local economy. Right? And then they've got an impact funnel connected to the local community. They have an influence funnel connected to the local community and grounded, and even beyond the local community in the cyber community, so that the work of God will not be hindered as it is. So, I'll stop here for today's episode, but we are going to be continuing with this exciting topic and helping your ministry build a niche ministry. I'll explain further what that actually means, but it's a departure from just a model of a discipleship funnel to a new model where you have your income, impact, influence funnel being the main thing you're using to grow the work that God has given you to grow. Love you guys. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe on the bottom. Give us a 5-star if you're listening to us on our podcast, and God bless. Reach out to us too. There's information. Reach out to us at buildinganicheministry.com, and we would like to hear from you. Would like to hear your thoughts about what we're talking about. God bless you. Bye.